Welcome back to One on One, New York's longest running sports call-in show. My name is Alex Wolz. Very, very happy to be joined by a special guest. This is Keanon Lowe, the former Oregon Ducks wide receiver. And more importantly, he's the author of a new book, Hometown Victory, A Coach's Story of Football, Fate, and Coming Home. A lot to get into. Keanon, thanks so much for being here. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
So this is a real pleasure. Like I mentioned to you, earlier, for me, obviously an Oregon fan growing up, but so much to talk about with this book that goes beyond football. And I kind of wanted to start, there's so many different parts of your life that are encapsulated in this book, whether it's your family growing up, whether it's your time coaching the sport, whatever it might be. And I thought the best way to start was kind of with your upbringing. A big part of this book is about your family and talking about the role that your mom had in your life and kind of the role that you took in leading your siblings. Can you just talk a little bit about what it was like growing up for you in Oregon and kind of when football became a big part of your life?
Yeah, I was blessed with an awesome family, a great mom, a great dad. It ended up being where I kind of grew up with a single mom after I was about, 8 years old, and so growing up in a single parent home isn't unique, and I'm not here to say like I grew up in conditions that were more unique and challenging than others, but I had my own experience and I was excited to be able to encapsulate that in words and put it in a book and share some of the things I learned growing up with a single mother. She had a great mom. She sacrificed everything for us and was able to move us across town so I could attend a private high school and have a chance to accomplish some of the dreams like playing at the University of Oregon and getting the scholarship and whatnot. I have that experience of what it's like to grow up in a single parent household. And then on the other side, my dad, I had him around till I was about 8 years old, like I said, and he struggled with alcohol. And again, that's not unique to anyone. I know a lot of families and parents and children of parents struggle with something like that in their household. And again, I was just excited to be able to encapsulate that into words and share some of the things and feelings I have about that. And to this day, me and my dad have a great relationship, but me experiencing that as a child and his struggle and his battles with his demons taught me a lot. And I was excited to put that into the book and share just why and who I am and why I became who I am.
Yeah, and then obviously a big part of that book too, you talk about your football career. And I thought one of the really cool parts of the book was when you talked about the first days you got to Oregon. And obviously, you were, as you mentioned, your mom made the sacrifice to let you go to a private high school in Portland and play football. And then you kind of mentioned how going to Oregon and getting to know Chip Kelly and joining that program was a bit of like a reflection for you and kind of understanding who you wanted to be. Can you just talk a little about, what your first days on campus at Oregon were and kind of your reaction to joining that program and what it did for you, as you became a coach?
Yeah, I joined the program coming off of a high school career where I ended up in San Antonio as an Army All-American. So I had a great high school career and had a lot of options as far as where to go to college. I ended up choosing the hometown Oregon Ducks. Ever since I was little, that was my team. It was a dream of mine to go play football there. And so I chose Oregon, and that was right at the height of the Chip Kelly era. I think it was his second or third year as the head coach there. And that first year as a true freshman, my true freshman year, we ended up going to the national title and losing to Cam Newton and the Auburn Tigers. So that was that full year. And me jumping into college as a 5'9", 165-pound wide receiver was quite the jump and quite the experiences. And when you get to a college campus, it's almost like the college coaches want to see what you're about, and they almost want to run you out of town and see if you'll quit. So I got pushed to the brink at the University of Oregon, and had to climb uphill a lot of the time when I was young. But through those and the adversities of just the sport of football and college football, I learned a lot about myself, and I learned how to continue to push through challenges and adversity and set goals for myself. And learn the process of accomplishing those goals. And again, I was able to put that in the book and put that into words. And the University of Oregon did a lot for me. And playing football there was definitely not easy during that era. We had it rolling pretty good and had a lot of good players on that team from all parts of the country. But I was able to push forward and kind of make a name for myself there. And when it's all said and done, I was really proud of that.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned some of the adversity battling through at Oregon. And one of my favorite kind of quotes or notes from this book was talking about how you mentioned there's a few moments in life that really change, your trajectory or where things are going to go. And, for you, when you leave Oregon and obviously, you travel out for the NFL, but ultimately end up, starting a career in coaching, you mentioned there was the one moment and it was losing a close friend of yours, Taylor Martinick, that kind of changed your life in almost a tragic way, but turns it into something positive. Can you share a little bit about what Taylor meant to you and what kind of his loss did for you and how it impacted you moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, he meant everything to me. He was the best friend. We all have that best friend or one or two of those people in our lives that we grow up with and go through high school with and kind of go through all the first. And as a 14, 15-year-old, and you come out of high school as an 18-year-old, you feel like you as an 18-year-old, you feel like you're a man, even though you have a long way to go. And then through early college, he ended up going to Portland State and playing football. I would go to University of Oregon, uh, not too far away. So we still stayed tight during those days, and he meant the world to me. And again, I was excited to write this book to honor him. At the very first page is in memory of Taylor Martinick. So I really wrote this book in memory of him, and again, he was the reason why I was really put in the situations that I was in this book, and in my
Yeah.
story and in the hallways with that student in 2019. So yeah, Taylor ended up passing away over an accidental overdose and fentanyl and all that. And there's not a lot of things for students or just people in general to read about those things and be educated a little bit about those things and the risks. And I think this book is just a real life story of how, as young people, you feel invincible, and unfortunately, we're not invincible. And when tragedy strikes, it's kind of, we all have our ways that we deal with it and grieve. And my way was going back home and figuring out what was really important to me. And through that, I found a team that lost 23 games in a row that needed a mentor and a coach. And through that, I ended up in a hallway saving a kid with a gun, and it became a national story. So I think it's a pretty cool story, a well-rounded story.
That's Keanon Lowe talking about his new book, Hometown Victory, and asked Alex Wolz here on WFUV. And as you mentioned, Keanon, encapsulating a lot of this in this book. And I want to try to put some of what you just mentioned in perspective here. As you mentioned, we're a New York audience who might not know the name Parkrose for one reason or another. As you mentioned, taking over that football team that had lost 23 games in a row. And it was really, I think the thing that stuck out to me reading this was not just about the on the field improvement, right? You turned around a program and had a successful season, a playoff appearance, some really incredible things, but you also talked about really just changing the students' lives and people that have hardships that a lot of us really have a hard time understanding. So I would love to hear more about just what you tried to teach the kids at Parkrose and what you in turn learned from them and what was so unique about that school and your time there.
Yeah, I think life is all about perspective. And some of us right now sitting, and some of us are older, and we don't really necessarily know exactly what the students in these high schools go through. And I have the unique position in the school and a unique seat as a head coach of the football program and track program, and I work security in the school. So my time at Parkrose, I really got to live with these kids day in and day out and really understand what they're going through. Some kids were homeless. Some kids had anger issues. Some kids had to babysit their little brother while they had football practice. There's a lot of things that these kids go through. And, I had that unique seat to be able to live and experience that. And through that, I was able to learn so much from them. All of a sudden, my problems that I've had in my life were very insignificant because I saw a young man battling certain things that I'd never even thought about. So that's what I think this book is awesome, because it gives a perspective. It's for the eighth grade student that never has read a book before, but it's also for the sports loving father, but it's also for the educator or the student athlete or a coach. I think it's a well-rounded story that just sheds a lot of perspective on what's happening in high schools. And then it's also, again, sheds light on something positive. And that's all I wanted to do with this story in this book, is continue to spread some positivity for everybody and in the times that we're in now and all that. So.
Yeah, and then that moment, as you mentioned, stopping the potential school shooter a few years later is one that really sticks out about spreading positivity. And obviously, something that could have gone so wrong, and your action and compassion really turn that situation around. And what I'd love to know, now it's a few years after that now, that event, and hearing the response to it, and being called the hero and winning the Congressional Medal of Honor and some really incredible things. But I'd love to know, about that moment, or about your time at Parkrose. What would you want other people to know about the situation, that happened to lead to that, stopping that school shooter? And what do you think is important for people to know about that situation, or to keep in mind, in their own lives when they look at something like this that happened?
Yeah, I think it's important for people to understand that incident with that student that was trying to take his own life in the high school, that was just one dark moment for that student. And we've all been down before. We've all been sad before. We've all gone through things, whether you're an adult or whether you're a child. We all go through things that cause certain mental health, that can cause certain mental health issues, and that can cause some depression or sadness or anything. So I understand that was just one moment in that. And I think the book sheds light on every moment that led up to that, the understanding of what that kid was going through, that I got to learn from some of my students on the football team, the understanding of how to handle that situation by being able to grow and teach and learn from students that were battling challenges in their lives. So by me learning all of those things from my students on that football team and working security in that school, when that moment came, when a kid was having a mental health crisis, my natural reaction then became to give him a hug and to help him in that moment, and not treat him like he was some evil kid. Because up until that experience, I knew exactly what the kid was going through, and I had compassion. And that's all this book is trying to shed light into. Again, it's about perspective and empathy and compassion, and just shedding light to people that may not work in schools or may not know exactly what's going on with the younger kids these days. I think it sheds a lot of light into that. And again, it's a fun football story as well too.
And you mentioned the football story aspect. One of the last things I wanted to ask you, Keanon, was a lot of these lessons that you learned came from, either your time as a player, your time as a coach, and obviously through the game of football. And if you had to look back at it now, and it's obviously still looking into a coaching career, what would you say about the impact of the game of football, either on those kids at Parkrose, or what it's meant to you personally that you think other people can take away from the game?
Yeah, I'm in love with the game. I have been in love with the game ever since I was a kid. I think football is one of, if not the toughest sport, because you literally and figuratively have to learn how to pick yourself up off the ground when you get knocked down. And it's a direct translation into life, where you literally and figuratively most of the time have to pick yourself up off the ground and learn how to roll with the punches and learn how to deal with adversity. Football is just like any sport, is a process oriented game. You don't become good at football overnight. Teams don't become great overnight. It's a process. And that's our lives. Our whole life is a process to continue to try to figure out how to be the best versions of ourselves. And that's why I love the game of football. It taught me so much about myself. It helped me look inward. It helped me look myself in the mirror and understand, what I needed to do to be successful. So I love the game of football. I think it's the greatest teacher in life, if not, for everyone, even if they don't play.
And this book talks about so much of that. And I also know, alongside the book, another working on a movie as well, Keanon, about your life and about this experience. Can you share any bit about that, or just in general about what's next for you in terms of telling this story of hometown victory?
Yeah, I can't share too much about that, but I was approached with an opportunity to have this story become a film, and by some great companies and great people behind it. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, was one of those people. And so I can't say too much about it, but I can say how excited I am and how awesome of an opportunity that is. It's kind of like a dream, it's you would never expect anything like that to happen. Have someone approach you and say, hey, we would like to make a movie about you and your life and this amazing act that you did. So I'm just grateful and thankful for all the opportunities that have come my way. And, I'm really excited about this book to get it in people's hands so they can have something positive to read and hopefully share it with the other people in their circles.
Yeah, and Keanon, if there's a final word here about this book, obviously you mentioned it comes out on May 10th, and we're recording this just one day before that, so obviously getting right up to the release. And if there was anything you could share to people that do read this book, whether it is a football player, whether it is a coach, whether it is a student, what do you think is the main thing you would want them to take away from it?
The main thing is that everyone's going through something, even if you don't know it. Everyone has a fight that they're fighting within themselves. Everyone's going through a battle. Sometimes we can see it. Sometimes we see the battle when it's on the football field and we're fans and we're watching it. But sometimes, that person or that kid or that coach or that student or that teacher goes home and they fight an internal battle in themselves. So we all fight a battle, and everyone's going through something. So I want people to understand that. And I want people to understand that when you're nice to people, when you're kind to people, when you help people, you're essentially making the world a better place. I've been called a hero before, but I think anyone's a hero that continues to help people, or that continues to spread positivity and kindness. If you spread positivity and kindness, then you're a hero in your everyday life as well. So I'm excited to get this book in the hands of everyone that's looking to be a little bit inspired and looking for some positivity in their life.
And you can read that story for yourself in Hometown Victory, a coach's story of football, fate, and coming home. I was able to get a copy. And like you said, Keanon, incredible man, incredible person, and an incredible story. So that's out on bookshelves now. You can find it everywhere, Keanon. Thanks again so much for doing this. Really means a lot. And best of luck with everything moving forward.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
And we'll be right back with more one-on-one right after this.